The spire of St. Sophia's reached into a summer sky as the Ukrainian president and his wife approached. 35 years after independence from the Soviet Union, Russia occupies 1/5 of Ukraine. True independence, an aspiration demanding more blood and sacrifice. The Prime Minister came to pledge Britain's support to demonstrate that changes in government and leadership have not altered British policy.
You have endured 12 years of naked aggression, the occupation of Crimea, and now 4.5 years of Russia's full-scale invasion, all aimed at crushing the independence that we are here to celebrate, trying to break your will. But today and every day you prove that they have failed.
A police officer, Serhiy Panfilov, received a medal and asked for a selfie. So an aide sprinted across with a phone. Such moments must be welcome for Zelenskyy, who has recently run into political trouble, a way of reasserting himself as someone who can unify the nation. Like other Ukrainians not in uniform, he wore an embroidered Vyshyvanka shirt, a symbol of Ukraine's distinct culture. Ukraine's aerial drones were on display, the motherland monument in the background. Prowess in drone technology has not only changed the course of the war, but also established Ukraine as a leader in military innovation.
Today we can see Ukrainian might, with which we are defending the lives of our people, that makes this war special and that will make Ukraine, after this war, a real donor of security for its partners, for its friends.
Донором безпеки для своїх партнерів, для своїх друзів передусім.
The Prime Minister had an unscripted moment, playing a Smiths song on an unplugged guitar handed to him by a Ukrainian soldier, before returning to the serious business of the day. At a meeting of European and other allies in Kyiv, the British announced access to blueprints so Ukraine can manufacture Storm Shadow missiles. But that can't happen overnight, and there's an urgent need for interceptors to stop Russian missiles hitting Ukrainian cities now.
I'm also asking British industry to get behind Project Freya to provide a lower-cost alternative to US Patriot systems for intercepting ballistic missiles.
The Russians accuse Britain of becoming a party to the war.
Britain methodically and regularly adds fuel to the fire, and methodically and regularly hatches schemes to prevent even the slightest progress in the peaceful settlement process. This is what Britain is doing.
Именно этим занимается Великобритания.
Overnight, Ukraine hit 4 warehouses belonging to the Russian online retailer Ozon, this one in Dagestan. The aim is to use long-range drones to bring the war to Russian civilians. But the Russians are not deterred. Their missiles hit a home improvement store in the port city of Odessa, injuring 5 people. Later, they reportedly hit a cargo vessel as they try to curtail Ukrainian exports across the Black Sea. Today was about European solidarity with Ukraine, but the American leadership was notably absent, and patriotic songs will not carry the country through what promises to be another brutal winter.
Well, earlier I spoke to the Foreign Office Minister Lord Wood, and I asked him what Andy Burnham meant when he says we are with Ukraine all the way.
Well, it means that Ukraine has been attacked by Russia. Russia is the aggressor. Ukraine is a country that got its independence 35 years ago today, and it needs to defend itself. And I think it's the responsibility of European allies, of the European continent, to support a country that was attacked, unprovoked, by Russia. And we will do whatever it takes to support them. That's what Andy Burnham meant. And it's great that Andy Burnham's first foreign trip is showing the continuity that not just Keir Starmer showed with his leadership, but frankly had been showed shown by a number of prime ministers, Conservative and Labour alike, since the invasion.
Yes, continuity is the key here, isn't it? Because Andy Burnham obviously has defined himself as the man who's going to bring change at home. But when it comes to Ukraine, he's very much doing the same thing as Keir Starmer. And what that has meant since 2022 is helping Ukraine incrementally, but never giving it quite enough to let it win.
Well, we are enabling Ukraine to mount a vigorous defence. And you remember in the first days of the Russian attack, everyone thought that Ukraine might be overrun very easily. What's happened is there's been a coordinated support across the European continent. The European Union has provided this huge loan facility, unlocked by the change of power in Hungary recently. Britain has been a very large supporter of the leading military donor, I think, in Europe. We can continue to provide that support, and we're going to continue to lead this coalition of the willing. It's great to see Andy Burnham today chairing a meeting of leaders across countries, those there and those that attended virtually, showing that Britain is leading across the continent, across Europe and across the world in providing that support.
So when he asks who started the fire, when Russia says you're adding fuel to it, I mean, that is an acknowledgement, isn't it, that in arming Ukraine, Britain's role is now to fuel the fire on Ukraine's side.
No, Russia started this war. Russia attacked Ukraine. It was an unprovoked attack. It was an unjust attack. And what Britain is doing is enabling Ukraine to defend itself. We're providing the wherewithal, financial, some military support as well, in order for Ukraine to defend itself. And that's what we're going to continue to do, because we cannot let, on the European continent, a sovereign nation be attacked recklessly, unprovoked. Yeah. It's not just a matter of the defence of Ukraine, it's a matter of defence of other European countries. And we've seen that Russia has been provoking not just Ukraine, but we've seen the drone attacks in Poland, in Romania, we've seen cyber attacks elsewhere. We have to be in the forefront of defending the continent and helping Ukraine defend itself.
And that's a position that's widely held in British politics, but it is adding fuel to the fire, isn't it, on Ukraine's side?
No one wants to be in a situation of conflict, but when a sovereign country is attacked, it is responsibility of other countries that support that country to support them, to enable them to defend themselves.
What do you assess that the Russian threat of consequences for Britain to mean?
I don't know what the Russian threat means. Russia issues these threats on a regular basis, but the test of whether it's the right thing to do to support Ukraine is not whether the Russians react one way or another. The test is whether we are enabling Ukraine to defend itself, to have the means to defend itself against an unprovoked attack.
Right, but I mean, ministers have acknowledged in the past that there is a hybrid war going on with Russia, and Russia is implying that could be escalated now, and it's withdrawn its ambassador and not replaced him. I mean, do you think there is a real risk, for example, of undersea cables or pipelines, which we know have been surveyed by the Russian military, being attacked?
Well, first of all, on the Russian ambassador, I don't think it is clear the Russian ambassador was withdrawn. My understanding is that the Russian ambassador came to the end of a normal rotation. We have the same rotations in our foreign service. You are right that there are various risks that we've seen that Russia poses across the continent and in different forms. Those are things we have to be on our mettle for. We have a cybersecurity approach across government that is taking those things very seriously, and we're going to have to continue to do that. That threat exists anyway. That threat will probably continue to exist.
Isn't the real problem for the coalition of the willing that Donald Trump does not appear to be on your side anymore?
Of course we want American support. The European Union European countries are buying arms from the United States, making provision for that. And of course we want more countries to support Ukraine for as long as it takes.
But do you agree they're not doing enough? I mean, you know, they're not supplying Patriot missiles, they're not giving the blueprints for Patriots in the way that Britain is now giving the blueprints for Storm Shadow, and they're bringing in economic sanctions against Iran tonight, but not against Russia.
Well, the Iran situation's quite different. Of course, we want as many countries to support the effort as possible. But what the coalition, the willing is leading mostly European, Canadian, other countries as well, but leading a cross-national coalition of support, which is solid both on financial support, military support, and all sorts of other civilian support.
Lord Wood, thank you very much. Well, joining me now from Wiltshire is Sir Richard Sheriff, the former Deputy Supreme Allied Commander for Europe. Good evening. Do you think continuity for Andy Burnham is the right approach, or does he and the rest of the coalition need to step it up?
Absolutely, they need to step it up. It's fine to talk continuity, and let's be clear, the British effort has been pretty good, and it's good to hear the news today about the sharing of blueprints. Although The Ukrainians have been firing off Storm Shadow for some time, and it's not going to win the war. No, what is needed is a complete step change, a recognition that there is only going to be a lasting ceasefire when there is a united coalition strategy to support Ukraine, defeat Russia in Ukraine. Ukrainian victory is the only way to achieve that. And it requires not only military support, and we've got to give Ukrainians what they need and what they want, notably, of course, interceptors, but it's also going to need financial and economic measures ultimately to take down the Russian economy, because that's the only way to force Putin, give him a catastrophic shock to force him to accept that he's never going to get Ukraine as part of Russia.
How do you think military victory is actually achievable? What would it require?
A victory over Russia does not mean, let me be clear about this, it does not mean marching on Moscow, but it means instilling in the mind of Putin and every Russian commander the recognition that they will not achieve victory over Ukraine. They will not achieve their aims in Ukraine. It means ramping up and continuing the Ukrainian strangulation of Crimea. I think that's a very good example. Crimea is effectively a center of gravity for Russia. And if Russia was unable to hold on to Crimea because Ukraine made it impossible, that would make Putin's position very weak indeed. But it needs more than that. It means the continued long-range precision strikes by Ukraine. But it also needs financial and economic measures. It's not just about the military means. It's about financial, economic, and also getting into the minds of the Russian people, cognitive warfare, the fact that Putin, an indicted war criminal, has led his country down about the darkest path he could have led them.
Right, but that requires Donald Trump to get involved in those sorts of economic sanctions, and he's not showing any sign of doing that at the moment. There will be people watching this unfold, worrying that we are inviting an escalation of Russia's hybrid war that's already going on, and that may start to reach people here.
Well, let's just unpack a few things. Let's talk about his hybrid war. This, if you don't think it's reached here, I don't know where you've been. 2006, Litvinenko poisoned with nuclear polonium on the streets of London. 2018, Salisbury, weapon-grade nerve agent launched in an English cathedral city. And then on top of that, espionage, sabotage, cyber attacks, manipulation of minorities, undersea cables, you name it, the Russians have been at it. And as far as the Russians are concerned, they've been at war with NATO since 2014. Not my words, that's Dmitry Trenin of the Moscow Carnegie Foundation writing some 10 years ago. So they're absolutely at it. Going back a bit further, I mean, I think you raised another point there.
Trump,
but the key, Trump, yeah. Now look, yes, of course, if America was in this party, it would make it immensely easier. Now, America is providing targeting information. It's not providing Patriot, which is critical to the defense of Ukrainian cities, which, of course, being pulverized night after night by Russian ballistic missiles. But at the end of the day, if Trump is not in this, we've got to do it alone. Whatever it takes, whatever the sacrifice, Europe and Ukraine's other partners, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, also will need to step up to the mark. Because at the end of the day, this is European security. Ukraine is fighting a war on our behalf, and we have to ensure that I go back to my point, the only way there's a lasting ceasefire is when Russia recognizes it cannot swallow up Ukraine as part of its empire. And that needs the sort of strategic thinking I've been talking about.
So, Richard Sheriff, thank you very much.
Thank you.